What's up, guys? This is Corey with the Dirt City Gym, back in another video for y'all. So today we're going to be taking a look at the top 8 of ARG Indy. I discussed top 10 decks going into the tournament last week. We finally got all of our results in and everything like that, and we'll kind of take a look at all those. I think there ended up being 130, 140 people, somewhere in that ballpark. Not super small, but not quite what you're kind of expecting in these type of events. But with no invites or anything like that on the line here at this type of event, it's kind of hard to expect much more than that, I suppose. As opposed to the PPG event, Anime Next, I think there's like 30 or 40 people. We'll probably take a look at those lists too on a separate video. I just kind of wanted to get into these top 8. All in all, from what the kind of lists that I predicted, we did fairly well. In our top 8, we had a Shinron Purunga, we had a Vanilla Coup, a Black Broly, 3 Janimbas, a Green Broly starter, and a Yellow Broly. So we had 4 of our top 10 decks that made it in, and I believe all of our top 4 actually made it in, so that's pretty good there. Alright, but other than that, let's go ahead and take a look at the lists. Alright, so first up here, we're going to take a look at Brandon Bowling, I believe is how you pronounce it. I don't have the official standings. I know who won, but I didn't see the official standings, so we're just going to go over the actual top 8. But moving on into Brandon's list, he played a a Purunga Victory Strike deck, and for those of you who have been watching the channel, I actually highlighted one of these types of decks about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks now. The decks, this list versus my list, are actually pretty similar. There's only a handful of card differences. This is more geared towards a particular meta than mine was. Mine was more generic, but just wanted to throw that out there that we did cover that deck. And this was top, I believe this was top seed coming out of Swiss, if I'm correct on that. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the list. So we've got Purunga. So what makes Purunga different than, say, like normal Shenron is that his ultimate wish is that he brings a battle card from the drop area into play with an energy cost equal to or less than your energy. So he's basically a free World Peace without actually using the World Peace extra card. Moving on into the list, we've got 2 Dragon Ball Seeker Sorbet. He's just to play 1, search for Dragon Ball, put it in your hand. We've got 3 Godly Destruction Whis. This is just good for mill type strategies and different things like the untap, which is just a yellow 1-drop that draws your card, which is really good. 4 Explorer Bulma. Everyone pretty much knows what this is by now. This is what inevitably gets this engine going as quickly as possible on turn 4. Moving on to that, we've got 4 Path to Greatness. This is really like the whole point of the deck. You get Path out so you can go up to the Victory Strike chain, so you got to find your paths. He's only running 3 Height of Mastery, which isn't too terrible. With a list like this, you probably want to see just like a full grip of the path and heights, but it's probably did him fine. 2 Dangerous Journey Bulma. So this is just recursion for more particularly the Victory Strike. If ever it gets milled or anything like that, you can play this, put it back at the bottom of the deck, and kind of go from there. 2 Time Colonel Konoha, and this stops Jugash. I don't know if it's overly necessary in the main deck. I believe this was a best of 3 all day, so it's kind of weird seeing that there. We've got Bardock Fully Unleashed. So this is your like check to Broly, starter Broly. It comes into play and removes all of your opponent's battle cards with energy costs of 6 or more. Send him to the warp, I believe. He's a free overwhelm. So pretty strong there, just kind of taking care of Broly, which is, like I said, literally what this is for. Again, I don't know what the expectation was. I probably still would have maybe liked to see this on the side, but if you're really fearing Broly, this is probably fine. Super combo, we got 4 Temporal Rescue Trunks. This is the go-to super combo for a Shinron deck. You get your Victory Strike, everyone knows what that is. A 1-of Crusher Ball, which is kind of cute. 4 Flying Nimbus, 4 Personal Ambition, 3 Universe 7 Representative. This is just your search card. 2 Dragon Radar. More than likely, this is just a draw engine to get more Dragon Balls. I don't know that you necessarily be getting Personal Ambitions off of this. 2 Power Burst, just your free negate, and then your 7 Dragon Balls. And then moving on into the sideboard, we have 3 Whis the Resting Attendant. I understand the point of this. I don't know that this is ever better than Bulma. Be curious to see the rationale behind this, just running this in general. Where would you ever side this in, I guess is my question. unless, because you could never do it till turn 4, and by that point you should be going into your engine anyway. 2 Successor of Hope, just more search. I probably would have preferred to see these in the main, maybe as opposed to the Cronoa, but he's running more of the Broly Hate and Stuff main deck, so maybe that's why he went with the Successor on the side as opposed to the main. Looks like 3 Fledgling Talent Pan, not too bad. 2 of the yellow 5-drop Super Saiyan Goku from Tournament of Power. I think this was strictly a Self-Awakening card. Obviously he can't evolve off of it with anything, so I imagine that's what this is, because it's take 2 life, gets plus 10k, and it untaps and draws. I imagine that's what it's used for, but again, interesting to see the rationale behind that. We got another Height of Mastery, 2 Trunks Power Overseeing Time, that's for Janemba, and then 2 Tien Shin Han Returning Fire, again for Janemba. Overall, the list is pretty solid. Like I said, I did them really well. Kind of what we mentioned earlier, I think I probably would have liked to, I don't know if Cronoa is necessary in main deck. I think you could have put that in the side and been just fine. And I probably would have liked to seen the successors and things like that in the main as well. Overall, not too bad though. It's good to see this deck doing well. Like I said, I was kind of hyping it up a few weeks ago. I thought it was strong. I don't think it's nearly as strong as the other Victory Strike engines, but it's really good to see it. And again, for those of you who aren't aware, what this does is you get to turn 3, you play your path. Turn 4, you swap an Height Master, you tap them out, then use Purunga's Wish to bring out Explorer Bulma. You untap 2 energy, you have 1 energy to evolve. And he's not running Battering, so he's not even saving an energy for that, which is interesting. It's not even on the side. But anyway, you just go to turn 4, Victor Strike with an energy open is the kind of the idea. Excuse me. As far as the side, Fledgling Talent Pan, I'm not too sure of if it's overly necessary. And again, the Whis, like we talked about. I probably would have liked to seen more Mercenary Tao's on the sideboard. That's also another interesting choice. I'd like to see Mercenary Tao on pretty much all sideboards now. But yeah, again, cool to see. Don't want to talk too much hate on it because it did well. Alright, moving on, we've got Thomas Higgins. He played Vanilla Coup. I believe he is the one who won the whole event, actually, and it looks like he's playing a blue-black version. Just kind of almost your pretty standard variant on this. He is running, let's go to the full list actually. So 2 Further Instruction Choppa, just a good double strike. Awakening Talent Pan, just for your self-awakening. 4 Super Saiyan Son Goku, 3 Super Saiyan Vegeta. These are your fusion targets, they're vanilla targets, all that kind of good stuff. 4 Deborah, that's your big vanilla threat. 2 At All Cost Vegeta, it's self-awakening, it's a win con by himself, just an overall really good value card. It's also 20k Vegeta, which is relevant for fusion. We've got 2 Gogeta Hero Revive, just again one of the best finishers in the game. You've got several fuse targets in the deck, so it's a really good option there. 4 Bonds of Friendship, and then 4 Adventure. Those are pretty standard there. 3 Training Buddy Krillin. You're not actually seeing a whole bunch of these anymore. You used to see more of these main decked. You're not seeing them more recently. You may start seeing more of a trend to people playing these more now in the main deck, because people are starting to main deck Crisis Crusher to stop you from awakening and to pop your Gokus and androids and things like that. So Training Buddy Krillin may become more of a staple deck-wise again. 4 Temporal Rescue Trunks, you're filling the drop pretty early and you're staying at a pretty high life, so this is probably the better super combo. 1 Beyond Darkest Demigra, again, if you have the option to run it, it's one of those why not. You're running several black cards, it's just another great way to kind of close out the game. 4 Sensu Beans, really good. 2 Aider Aid, we've not seen Aider Aid in a lot of these lists lately. So it's kind of cool to see, I guess. I don't know if it's overly necessary. I probably would have preferred just 4 Power Bursts, but he's running a 2-2 split on Power Burst and Aider Aid. And then he's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4-star balls, which is pretty standard. Moving into the sideboard, we've got 2 Ultimate Fusion Gogeta. He's just the 5-drop. Draw 2, double strike, bounce 2. You can fuse him early, usually just kind of hard cast him. We've got 1 Gogeta Hero Revived, which is nice. 2 more Power Bursts here. He's got 1 Cronoa, 1, 2, 3 Dimensional Support Trunks. He's running 4 Tien Shin Han, which is interesting. and then he's got the 2 Mass Saiyan. So Mass Saiyan is more than anything for the mirror. Tien Shinhan's pretty standard, but you're going to see 4 is kind of a lot. Usually 3 is the number, 2 to 3 is the number. Dimensional Support Trunks is another interesting one, I guess, if you're wanting to go wide. I don't like the decks that run Demigra and the Dimensional Support Trunks. I feel like they're, you know, obviously they're counterbalancing each other, but I get it. I'd probably just not run that. The Power Burst, like I said, I'd rather be in the main, and then the Gogetas are fine. Once again, not running a Mercenary Tau. Obviously, Vanillicu's not as hurt by Lord Slug or Hand Destruction type strategies as a lot of these decks are, but I think it's still a good option to have. Just access to that. Another thing would be Crisis Crusher, I think would be not too bad to run in this side. But like I said, he won. I believe he played Janemba in the finals. I didn't actually get to see the match, so not 100% sure, but Vanillicu's, like I guess we talked about on Wednesday, I believe, it's just a really great deck. It's one of those you're always going to expect to see. There's only one of these that made top cut, and I don't know that there were any or very few that made into the PPG top cut. So people are learning to play around it a little bit. Like I said, main deck Crisis Crusher is becoming way more prevalent, which deals with a lot of what Vanillicu's doing early, especially limiting its awakening. And unless you're playing Training Buddy Krillin, you don't really have a way to deal with it like efficiently. And then also more red decks playing like Planet and Tube and kind of stuff like that. Overall, not too bad. It's kind of your standard blue-black list though. Alright, next up we've got the spice of the night. So we've got Michael Friend playing Black Broly. Another one that we actually covered in here not too long ago on the channel. Very different list, but neat all the same. So Black Broly has been getting a little bit of hype. People are starting to do a little bit well with it. It interacts well with like Chiles and things like that. It has really good board control. And discard and things like that. So it's an overall, it's better than what it was when it initially came out. I still don't know that it's necessarily a fantastic leader. I think people are just winning in spite of the leader, and it's more about the deck list, but we'll kind of get into that. For the deck list, we got 4 Dependable Mom Bulma. She's just a tap 1 plus 5k to something, draw a card. She's really good there. 1 Heroic Du Videl. This is just a 1-drop negate battle card that you can play on your opponent's turn. 4 Intensifying Power Trunks. 2 Further Destruction Champa. 3 Chain Attack Trunks. 3 Foreseeing Hit, one of the best cards in the game still. 2 of the Multicolor Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, which is a really strong card. This is, I think, the only representation for the multicolor cards that we have, so it's cool to see that. It's got 2 Zeno, the Plane God, just really great removal. Zeno Chain is one of the best engines in the game. We've got 4 Chile, Frieza's Army Soldier. She's a 1-drop draw card, and then she's got an effect for a green and another. You can go find a Frieza's Army card. Energy costs 2 or less and put it into play. As far as this deck is concerned, she can get Chile the Beautiful or Speedy Partner Limo. So not a ton of targets, but enough to make it value. We've got 4 Son Gohan Newfound Power. Just again, a 1-drop crit, take a life. 3 Chile the Beautiful, make her discard a card whenever her opponent's battle card is KO'd. 2 Speedy Partner Linmo, whenever he comes into play. If a Chile is in play, then your opponent discards a card. 3 Surprise Attack Frieza, it's a really strong card, especially what this deck's trying to do. 2 Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, excuse me. He's another take a life, gets plus 10k, and then he's got whenever your opponent plays a battle card using a non-keyword skill, 15 or less, they discard 2 cards from their hand, or send them to the warp, something like that. We've got 2 Kami Global Unifier, just a clear board wipe. 2 Scientist Fu. We've got 4 Master Roshi Strict Instructor. Obviously this deck's trying to awaken early. It's got multiple ways to self-awaken itself, so running a 4 life or less super combo is probably good to go. And then 3 Power Burst. Overall, it's a neat list. Obviously, it looks like it's trying to be like incredibly aggressive and do hand control at the same time, which is kind of cool. Some of these I don't think are overly necessary, like the Black Mass Saiyan. You could probably put that on the side. Running Kami and Chain Attack in the same deck is another one that's kind of but I understand. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid list. Moving on to the sideboard. We got 2 Harmonic Energy Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. So this is the 3-drop that comes into play and gives an opponent's battle card ignoring barrier minus 10k, I believe, might be minus 15. but this is to deal with barrier threats or big threats you just kind of can't deal with pop effects and things like that. So pretty strong there. 2 Father-Son Kamehameha. This is for things like Broly. It just pops a battle card. I think that has an energy cost higher than your opponent's current energy, I believe, and it's an activate main, so it's on your turn. 3 Double Impact Krillin. This is probably to deal with Tau, because this is a hand control type deck. It's not as super heavy as something like Lord Slug in the hand control department, but it's still a hand control deck with all the crits and the discard options, so you need that kind of safety from Tau, which, as we've not seen just like a whole ton of access on Tau. 2 minus Killing Zone, just great for all the Cold Bloodlust running around and Preemptive Strike and things like that. 1 more additional Power Burst. 2 Mercenary Tau, should protect himself from hand destruction. 2 Haru Haru, which is really good. Actually, again, right now we're seeing a lot more of this Broly Ad Mastery, or even just like the green starter Broly, seeing a lot more play. Golden Frieza, U7 Frieza, all this kind of stuff. So having access to this is a really strong card. And then finally, 1 Dimensional Banisher Fu. All in all, it's a pretty solid sideboard, actually. No access to TN, but you're kind of banking on your hand destruction, kind of dealing with Janemba before you really need a TN, so I can understand the rationale behind that. But overall, just really cool seeing a very unique leader. This is the best leaders obviously really ever done do well at an event. I know we've been seeing some reports more recently where it's been winning like store prelims and things like that, but actually seeing another big stage is really cool. Alright, next up we've got Jordan Laws, I believe is how you say that, and he is running a Janemba. Let's get into that. Alright, so this is a more teched out Janemba. I remember when I put this list in. So it's got 1 Hidden Power E Supreme Kai, 4 Unbreakable Sun Goku, 2 Awakening Talipan, 2 Burnished Mon Borgos, 2 Psyche Demon Rocking Out, 1 Unyielding Spirit Trunks, 3 Childish Heart Janemba, 1 Vegeta at all cost, 4 Demon Swords, 2 Agent of Destruction, 1 Reality Bender. I feel like it's a little low on the actual Janemba cards. Maybe you could do with 1 more Agent of Destruction. 1 Godstrike Beerus, 2 Infernal Villainy Cell, 1 Kami Global Unifier, 1 Time Control Cronoa, 1 Toki Toki Time Creator, 2 Successor or Lights Guide, 4 North Kai Keeping Watch, 4 Dimension Magic, 4 Sensu Bean, 1 Spirit Sword, 2 Mafuba, and 2 minus Killing Zones. Like I said, very teched out, a lot of smaller number type cards. Kind of get into some of these. So the Toki Toki is just an engine to find either the Time Control or the Kami Global Unifier. Whatever what Toki Toki does is whenever you play it, it goes and finds a battle card with an energy with a power of 3,000 or less, and puts it in your hand and puts this back on top of the deck. So it's basically just a search for one of these two, the Kami or the Time Control. Which is pretty strong if you need access to those. Spirit Sword is interesting. It's a blue negate, and then you choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 2 or less, return it to their hand. Minus Killing Zone is kind of weird. Most of your stuff has deflect, unless this is more for draw. I know the Agent of Destruction doesn't have deflect, but a lot of this stuff does, like your big Janemba stuff. So a little interesting to see that in the main deck or the side deck in general. So that's kind of interesting. Godstrike Beerus is a card I'm glad to see. You don't see it enough, I feel like. It's a game-changing type ability that just doesn't get a lot of play. Moving on to the sideboard, we've got 1 Awakening Talipan, 3 more Spirit Swords, 2 Striving to be the best Goku. We've got 4 Raging Spirit Sun Gohan, haven't seen that card in forever. An additional Time Control Cronoa. 2 Tien Shinhan Returning Fire, and then 2 Bardock Fully Unleashed. So I'll harp on this again, there's no Tau on this side deck, so I'm already disappointed in it, especially for a deck like Janemba, which has such a hard time with hand destruction. I would really have liked to seen Mercenary Tau, like get rid of some of these Spirit Swords, or get rid of like some of these Raging Spirit Gohans. Like, you need Tau, you need access to that. I feel like he did well. I don't want to talk crap about the list, but I feel like he got a little bit too cute, trying to defend against so many different things at the same time. So yeah, that's interesting, especially in a format where Janembas kind of have a target on its head, where you kind of have to deal with it. People are learning to deal with it by turn 4. I feel like running a lot of this extra excess stuff can kind of make it clunky, so I'll be interested to see how his matchups went. Alright, moving on, we've got David Olding, and he is running Starter Broly. We'll get in the list. Pretty standard here. I don't see anything super spicy or anything like that. We've got 3 Unrealized Ambition, 4 Golemite, the new breed. I'm glad we're seeing more of that. I think that's a really good card for the deck. 2 Paragus to sacrifice, 4 of the 2-drop Paragus, and then we got our normal 4 of the Broly chain, Paragus, SCR Broly, 3 Control Mechanism, 3 Shocking Death Ball, 3 Tragic Awakening, 2 Battering, 3 Bloodlust, 3 Nimbus, and 3 Frieza's Call. The only thing I could probably say is I feel like, and I'd have to look at some of the other lists to say for certain, but I feel like it's a little extra card heavy. Maybe not, but it feels like it is a little bit extra card heavy. So we're at 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. We're at 20 extra cards, so almost half the deck is extra cards. I do feel like that's a little heavy. I'll have to take a look at some of the other lists to kind of get a real gauge for that. Moving on the sideboard, 1 Battering, 2 Crusher Ball, 3 Godly Destruction Whis, 1, 2, 3 No Escape Goku, which is interesting to see, 3 Time Control Klonoa, and then 3 Tien Shin Han Returning Fire. Again, like we talked about, I still feel like Tao is important for this. I probably would have liked Tao over No Escape. Crusher Ball is really interesting. I like having Crusher Ball on the side. I think that's a good choice. Other than that, the sideboard looks pretty standard. And the main deck, for the most part, looks standard. Like I said, I think it's a little extra card heavy, maybe like 2 or 3 more than what you traditionally see, but I could definitely be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure on the Broly list in my head. But like I said, like we talked about, Broly is one of those, it's going to be there. Maybe not in full force. You're never going to see like just 3 or 4 or 5 Brolys in Top Cut, this type of Broly at least. But there'll always be 1 or 2 that kind of sneak in and do pretty well. Alright, moving on, we've got Daniel Morales. I believe this was the 2nd place deck. I may be mistaken on that too, but I believe this was. And this is Janemba. So 1 Kai, 4 Unbreakable, 4 Borgos, 3 Psyche Demon, 1 Unyielding Spirit Trunks, 3 Childish Heart Janemba, 3 Demon Sword, 3 Agent of Destruction, 1 Reality Bender, 1 Godstrike Beerus, 4 Infernal Villainy, 3 Kami, really heavy on the Kami, 2 Klonoa, 2 Light's Guide, 1 Time Roller Toa, which is really interesting, 4 North Kai, 4 Dimension Magic, 4 Sensu Bean, and then 2 Mafuba. For the most part, pretty standard. Obviously, the Spice card is Time Roller Toa. This takes some of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 2 or less, I believe. One of the big targets this can take is the 1-drop Broly, if you can get it out early enough, which is pretty cool. And also can get things, take care of things like other Borgos or Whis on your opponent's side of the field, which is kind of cool. All in all, again, pretty standard. People were really leaning heavy with the black cards in the main deck with the Kamis and the Time Control Klonoa, which is definitely interesting to see. Moving on into the side deck, we've got another Furthering Instruction Champa. We've got 2 Awakening Talent Pan, which there's no in the main deck, so that's interesting to see there. You're running like a lot of the Sugesh Hate for those High to Mastery decks, but you're not running Self-Awakening, which I feel like is probably a mistake. An additional Childish Heart, Toki Toki, 2 Toki Tokis, 2 Mercenary Towels, really good there, 1 Crisis Crusher, I'm not a fan of that, 2 Tien Shin Han, and then 2 Trunks Power Overseeing Time. Trunks Power Overseeing Time is a really good card to start running again, obviously for all the Janemba that's in the format, recycle back the cards that you may need that are important. People are doing this Toki Toki thing. I just don't think it's necessary. I think it's probably fine, but I think you just have room for better cards, especially when you're running 3 and 2 like this. You have plenty of access to these cards. I don't think you need to run anything like that. I would have liked to see more Crisis Crusher. That's more important to get rid of opposing Borgos and Whis and things like that, in my mind. Pan probably should have been main deck too. Like we talked about, what the High to Mastery decks are trying to do is kill Janemba on turn 4 by some of them not even swinging at all, which isn't allowing Janemba to awaken or really get cards on the drop. so you don't have access to your super combos, especially a deck like this that's running at 4 life or less super combo. So again, really interesting stuff there. Don't entirely agree with that strategy. I would have liked to seen some Self-Awakening in the deck, but I think it did well. It did well with it. Like I said, I believe this is the deck that made second place. Alright, next up we've got Abe Ali. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. Alright, again, we're on Janemba. So we got 1 Further Instruction Champa, 4 Unyielding, or Unbreakable, excuse me, 2 Awakening, Talent Pan, 3 Borgos, 3 Psyche Demon, 1 Unyielding Spirit Trunks, 4 Childish Heart, 4 Demon Sword, 4 Agent of Destruction, 2 Reality Bender, 4 Infernal Villainy, 1 Crisis Crusher, 1 Light's Guide, 4 North Kai, 4 Dimension Magic, 4 Senzu Bean, 3 Whis, and 1 Mafuba. This is more of a standard build, actually, of what you're kind of typically going to see. Not running a lot of the Chronoas and Kamis and things like that in the main, as opposed to running the Crisis Crusher. Usually you only see 1 Reality Bender, so he's running 2. Other than that, nothing like too out of the ordinary. He's running Whis, which I don't believe the other ones are running Whis. I like running Whis in this deck. I think that's a good call there. And then moving on into the side, 1 Further Instruction Champa, 1 Awakening Talent Pan, 3 Striving to be the Best. I feel like that's a lot. 1 Deadly Defender Vegeta. I understand the rationale behind that. I don't know if that ever comes out to be successful for you, though. That's 4 Victory Strike. 1 Godstrike Beerus, 1 Kami, 1 Chronoa, 1, 2, 3 Mercenary Tau, good job there. An additional Crisis Crusher, and then 2 Tien Shinhan Returning Fire. So overall, not too bad on the side deck. I feel like the Striving to be the Best, that's way too many. I feel like 2 is probably enough, if you even run it. I don't even know if it's that necessary to run anymore. Godstrike Beerus is nice to see. Deadly Defender Vegeta is the 1 card. I'm just like, I just don't. So the point of this is to get this out and have this tapped before they go into the Victory Strike, making them commit and attacking into this. I just feel like with what a lot of those decks are trying to do, you're going to have such low hand advantage that you're not going to be able to save this anyway. They're going to swing with it leader, swing with it with the Height of Mastery before they evolve into Victory Strike or something like that, and just kind of take care of this. So not too thrilled with that, but I understand the rationale behind it. Alright, and then finally we've got Michael Washington running Yellow Broly, Height of Mastery. Let's get this just a second here. Alright, so this is like a meld of the swap and the draw package. So we've got 2 of the Hidden Power East Prime Kai, 4 Fearless Assault Krillin, we've got a 4 of Master Roshi and Master Shin, 4 Dependable Dynasty, 3 Gene here to support, 3 Intrepid Dynasty Son Gohan, 4 Path to Greatness, 3 Ultimate Potential Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, 4 Height of Mastery, 4 Sugesh, hard on the Sugesh, 1 Victory Strike, 4 Successor of Hope, 4 Bloodlust, and 2 Time Magic. So obviously the glaring thing about this is he's just balls to the wall, 4 Sugesh. Typically you're seeing like 2 Sugesh, 2 of the Goku Super Combo, or 2 of like the Jocko or Beerus. If you're seeing Sugesh at all, a lot of decks aren't even playing Sugesh anymore, just out of fear of the Chronoa. So typically what you've been kind of seeing the split on these lists are, you've been seeing the swap package, or you're seeing the Master Roshi Shin draw package. And like I was saying, this kind of blends them together, which is really cool to see. It's running the Gine here to support. This is just to fill the drop. You get you another 15 body if you want it, but generally speaking, most of the Broly decks aren't actually attacking, but this is probably taking a little bit more of an aggressive approach because it is running the Dependable Dynasty. It's also running the Gohan, so it still has that barrier swap engine, but this gives it 2 routes to kind of go, which is kind of cool to see. The Sugesh is just kind of the glaring thing, which is interesting. Successor of Hope finds almost all of your battle cards that are relevant. Your Dependable Dynasty, your Gohan, both of your Gohans, your Goku, so that's really cool. Moving on into the sideboard, we've got 2 Hidden Power Issa Prime Kai, a Battering Laser, 1 No Escape Son Goku, 2 Cronoa, looks like 3 Haru Haru, 3 Tien Shinhan, 1 Bardock Unbound, and then 2 Mass Saiyan. So I'm not going to say standard because, like I said, it is melding the 2 packages. I know, I think Anthony Hernandez was saying this is like one of the better ways to run this deck. I'm not 100% certain. I'm never going to agree. I'm not going to necessarily disagree with Force Sugesh, but I don't think it's correct either. You're really kind of going balls to the wall if you do that. I just feel like at least having access to 2 of these and 2 of a draw super combo is really where you want to be. Other than that, I don't have too lot to say about it. It'd be interesting to see this deck work, to see how often he like diverted and went more of an aggressive path, because I feel like that's what you're trying to do. You have those options when you play the Dependable Dynasty and the Guinea. Guinea not so much, because that's more just to get cards on the drop, but the Dependable Dynasty for sure, that is a swinging card. You don't really just let this sit. Maybe it's just so you have more targets off the successor, I guess, but I think this is really more meant to be more aggressive, which isn't wrong. But overall, like I said, pretty interesting to see. But anyway, guys, that is all the lists. Hopefully here in the next couple days, we'll try to get into the PPG top 8 or top, I think they broke it into top 12. I know it wasn't a top cut. They just had the top list and went into Swiss, but overall, it's interesting and important to see these formats, but at the same time, we know here in just a couple weeks, these formats are irrelevant because we're going to be getting into the anniversary box and the power booster. So this is kind of that weird space in time where these are only relevant for about 2 weeks. Sword prelims and this kind of stuff going on now. But other than that, that is it, and we will see y'all next time.